Hello, this is the tradesight Forex Market Preview and International Economic Data Roadmap for the week beginning Sunday, the 7th of September, 2013, ending on Friday, the 12th of September. Here's a look at the dollar index daily chart. We had a 13 sell signal last week that did not hold, very quickly broke that risk line. And notice how once you break the risk line, we talk about you usually get a big acceleration. We certainly did on some economic data this week. This takes us finally clearly away from the range that we were stuck in for a full 10 months on the Forex market between 81.50 and about 79.50. Very positive. A couple of big days of better ranges this week. And if this continues, we'll probably start to see better ranges, expanded ranges, and start to step up our trading size for the first time in a while. Here's a look at the euro dollar. Also broke down under the risk line of the 13 sell signal. Obviously, that goes in sync with what you saw in the dollar index. This is pretty interesting. Here's the pound dollar. Came down this week. The last 9-bar startup phase was back to the upside, was back in February of this year. Have not had a 9-bar startup phase complete since then. And we've come all the way back now and hit the red static trend line of that move. Very technical action and interesting to say the least. Let's look at the Aussie dollar. Nothing going on there. Look at the New Zealand dollar. A little weaker than the Aussie. And also just bounced off of the risk line of the 13 sell signal. Here's the pound yen. We're not seeing any action in the pound yen. Let's take a look at the intra-day action, intra-week action this week. We'll start with the euro dollar. And top to bottom, high to low, you're looking at 240 pips of range. That's the best we've seen in months. Obviously, this isn't perfect yet because most of it was on one day. We did have a winner on that one day, of course, that was reasonable. But most of it's on one day after the rate announcements out of Europe. Here's a look at the pound dollar, a little more active. Also, 360 pips of range, high to low. That's the first time we've been over 200 pips for a week in a long time. And this one was a little bit better because we had to move on Tuesday that we caught, and then a move on Thursday. Granted, Wednesday and Friday were fairly flat, but it's better. It certainly is better action than what we've been seeing for a while. Here's a look at the Aussie dollar. Here we're only 140 pips or so from high to low, so that's no better than anything we've been seeing. So signs of hope, signs of life potentially here in the Forex market. It is the time of year where the Forex market typically starts to heat up, although certainly it didn't last year. But if it does start to do so now, we will adjust our size accordingly. Let's get ready for the new week. Take a look at the economic data that's due. It is a long list, so stick with me here. On Sunday, New Zealand's manufacturing sales. Japan, we've got current account, final GDP, bank lending. China's on a bank holiday Sunday, or on Monday technically. They're still going to release their trade balance data despite the holiday. Japan's got their economy watcher sentiment. Switzerland releasing their unemployment rate at 1:45 a.m. Eastern Time. German trade balance right after that. We've got the CPI and retail sales out of Switzerland. Centex investor confidence number, that's the broad European sector. Building permits out of Canada. A speech from Treasury Secretary Liu. Consumer credit. And then Japan's monetary policy meeting minutes, tertiary industry activity, and M2 money stock. Australia's home loans and business confidence. 30-year bond auction out of Australia just before midnight Eastern Time going into Tuesday. And then consumer confidence out of Japan, preliminary machine tool orders right after that out of Japan. French trade balance. We've got UK's trade balance, manufacturing production, and industrial production data. Those are semi-important for the pound. We've got the NFIB Small Business Index out of the U.S. Tuesday morning. Housing starts out of Canada. JOLTS job openings out of the U.S. Core machinery orders out of Japan that night along with their PPI. And we go into Wednesday. French final non-farm payrolls, French industrial production, not major numbers. New loans out of China, M2 money supply out of China. German 10-year bond auction out of Europe. Capacity utilization out of Canada. Inflation report hearings out of the UK. The U.S., we've got wholesale inventories, then crude oil inventories. 10-year bond auction. We've got a rate announcement out of the Bank of New Zealand that night at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Housing price balance out of the UK, BSI manufacturing index out of Japan, MI inflation expectations out of Australia. We've got employment change and unemployment rate out of Australia, CPI and PPI out of China. Going into Thursday, we've got final CPI out of Germany, French CPI, ECB monthly bulletin out of Europe, Spanish HPI, 10-year bond auction out of the UK, the NHPI housing number out of Canada, unemployment claims, that's the weekly number out of the US, natty gas 10-year bond auction here in the US, federal budget balance at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. We've got New Zealand's got business NZ manufacturing index and FPI. And then revised industrial production out of Japan going into Friday, German WPI. We've got Italian industrial production, construction output out of the UK, industrial production here in Europe, employment change in Europe. We've got CB leading index out of the UK. And wrapping up the week from the US, retail sales, import-export prices, preliminary University of Michigan sentiment numbers on Friday morning, business inventory shortly thereafter. Even on Saturday, China's releasing some data, including industrial production and fixed asset investment, and China's retail sales. That wraps up the week. So there's a lot of data. I will say none of it, if you look carefully through this list, none of it is our big three. We have no GDP numbers. We've got the big three being the CPI, the NFP data, which we just got, the trade balance, which we just got here in the US. And so overall, none of the big data, but a lot of data. So maybe that'll keep the market moving without jumping too much. That'll be a positive for us. But we're going to focus on watching those daily ranges and see what kind of action we get. Maybe the fact that the European banks have done something finally dramatic will get the market moving a little bit better. That's certainly what started us off here. It's good for the dollar right now. The dollar is strengthening. And but either way, it's just we want a better trading environment. So we'll be here in the Trading Lab. Hope to help you out. Have a great trading week.